y'all haven't been here before, if y'all don't know, Shawnee Town. This is O.W. Fisher Chevrolet. This dealership is a replica of the dealership that was built in 1920 and would be in the proximity of Pega's restaurant over on Johnson Drive. It was there till 1961, family owned, and it just was a long time staple for people to buy their Chevrolets. But this is a replica of the dealership, and they would have done new car sales, truck sales, they would have done used vehicle sales, and then also repairs. And so in the 20s, you can kind of imagine what it would have been like. They didn't have a lift. What they had was a pit, so they could crawl underneath, drive the cars over, and stand below them and work on them. These were their tools. The tools, they spent a lot of time, actually years, getting the original tools and making sure they were period correct from 1920s. This is the parts department over here. And what they could do is the mechanics would still have access to the parts department. And if there were customers in there buying a car, they could slide this out of the way. So this would be where the mechanics would come and get their parts for the repairs that they were doing. And then they could move the car out once it was sold, pull another one in. If a customer wanted to come in and buy parts off the counter themselves, this is where the customers would walk in and buy. This is the office where the sales manager or salesman would be. It's also decorated correct, just the way it would have been back in the 20s. Sweet couple of little old ladies come in here, and they were asking me questions about the dealership and about the cars and everything. And she came in here and pointed to the phone, and she said, well, how's that work? And I said, well, back in the day, you used to lift the phone off the receiver, and you tap it a couple of times, and that would get the operator's attention, and then you would tell her what extension you wanted to connect it to, and she would connect it, and if she was honest, then she would hang up the phone. And the lady looked at me and she goes, I know that. She goes, what I mean is, how does it work without being connected to the wall? What we have on the showroom floor is our 1928 Chevrolet, little two-door coupe. It's the four-cylinder version, nicely redone, and it represents real well what would have been sitting on the showroom floor back then. You know what these are? Everybody guesses horns. They got brackets. There's two of them. See, this would be an accessories cabinet that we would have for fancy radiator caps or chrome trim and everything. But this is a vase. And you would mount it, mostly would have been on sedans, not coupes, but they would mount it right behind the door, and it was for the ladies. So you know what? In the roaring 20s, chivalry was not dead. The pit. This is where you would drive over. You could literally stand up and just reach up and work on the bottom of the car. And it would be safe. You wouldn't have to worry about anything falling, the jack tilting over, falling on you or anything. Made it awful. Valve compressors, there's mics for metering, there's the grease guns. I love the fact that they had so many wooden boxes back then. There weren't a lot of metal boxes. The metal boxes would be like that, more likely on a tractor or on the running board of a truck for when they were doing repairs. This is our farm truck, 1929. This is, again, a replica of what somebody would have had on the farm in the 20s. This is for a truck farm. They would keep what they were going to use for the family, and then whatever they were going to haul to town, this is what they would have used to either get it out of the field, then prep it, clean it, put it in the baskets, and take it to market. This is a four-cylinder. This is a AA 1929 Ford AA, so it's a heavy-duty truck. It also has a 4-speed transmission. So it probably will do about 40 miles per hour. Has a 10-gallon fuel tank and just a sweet running fun little truck. This was owned by Riki family, donated this, and we're so gracious because they're a Shawnee, they're a local family. They donated this truck, and it was restored by Parks and Recreation, Shawnee's own, and they did a complete restoration over it and then presented it back. It spends most of its time up in the barn where the truck farm display is, so it can kind of explain the history of that. Look at this. Did you see the springs on this thing? Now this is really interesting. The gas gauge is actually right in the dash. That's the gas tank. The Nash was an expensive car, but it was also kind of a mid-range car. It wasn't a Lincoln or a Cadillac, but it was a very nice sedan. That's a long car, and that car would have been probably $800 to $1,000. So the trucks would have been in the $700 range. Hey, this is our Nash interior. Look at this steering wheel. I love this. This wood is so incredible. Now look back here. This is something you don't see. We got blinds, pull down shutter blinds in the back seat so that when you were traveling, if you needed to stop and take a nap, you could. A lot of room in these cars. This is 6 people, 7 people easily. That's not if anybody's sitting on their laps.
What do you think of that one, Colby? Pretty cool, huh? We could definitely get 6 of you in there.
Tools.
What you got here,
This
Vince?
one's a motor stand for when they were going to overhaul it. This is a 4-cylinder motor stand, and they could yank that motor out easily, put it right here on the stand, and be able to move it around, get it away from the truck or close to the tool, close to the tools and the workbench, so they could, tear it apart, repair the bad parts, and then put it back together.
So I noticed some chain system where they lift the engines up with chains or something.
Yes, yeah, we're trying to get one, but yeah, they would roll that around. It would be on a beam, and they would roll them across, and get it over to where they want. These guys, this guy here is probably overhauling it right in the air like that, doing work on it right up in the air. Look at these guys. They are oily.
Man.
And no fan. It was 100 degrees, no fan.
No fan.
Oh, that's a wash basin. That's where you clean up before you go out on your date. And yes, they had ivory soap back then. It was just like this. And yeah, I remember my dad telling me when he was a kid that when he'd get up in the morning, sometimes in the wintertime, the wash basin had ice in it. I had to break the ice to wash his face so he could get up and come down to breakfast. Yeah.
It's a battery charger?
Yeah. Believe that? It's incredible. And then this is a battery voltage tester.
So this is all pre-1930.
This is all. Yep. See, 1930 hasn't happened yet. And they called it the Roaring 20s because everything was really rocking and rolling.
Right.
The older cars back in the teens, they were as expensive as $2,000 and $3,000. And then
like that one there?
No. Then these cars with mass production, parts starting to come together faster and easier. These cars were down around $500 to $700. That car got in a wreck, and the cops come to check him out, and those boxes are full of moonshine. Busted. Shawneetown 1929. Get on Facebook and look this up. All of the specialties, and they have so many things going on for families, for young ones, old ones, it doesn't matter. But next year, we're going to have something going on every week, a couple of times a week for young ones especially. But they have a lot of special activities in store, starting in the end of winter and at the very beginning of summer or something like that.